And here we go. We're going to get to see that momentarily as our teams are getting ready to go here. I'm expecting to see all of this trash pulled onto the boss for both teams here. That seems like it's pretty likely thing to happen, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, it's bursting volcanic. That's a pull that we've seen people even do on live realms. So I think that you're probably onto something. So on the side of Does Gargoyle Stream, it looks like they do not have a Necrolord, whereas on the side of Echo, we'll be able to see in a little bit whether or not they have a Necrolord. Looks like the indicator for Zalia and Frag is messed up, but it will fix
needs
next
combat
time.
to update, yeah. So we'll see that on the next poll. Maybe we can catch it if we can see any spells. But yeah, wow, look at these bosses melting. You can already see Echo pulling to a little bit of an advantage just in terms of how much damage they've been able to deploy here. It looks like the damage, particularly on the Hunter department, has been looking favorable for Echo. Interesting that they have Gingy, one of the world's best hunters, actually playing Mage because that's the class that he has the most coverage of relative to their other players. It looks like it's Frag instead playing that Hunter.
I mean, Frag's been playing Hunter on live lately.
Yeah,
the MDI Echo team was actually pushing live keys for a little bit. They played double Hunter Windwalker Monk with mirrors on that Windwalker, and Frag and Gingy both playing Hunter.
Yeah, so the adjustment here on the tournament realm of Gingy over to the Mage, which is certainly a great spec for this sort of tournament. As you can see, Gargoyle ending up being 15 seconds slower on Boss 1. Not a great spot to be in terms of you're already losing quite a large percentage of time up against Echo when there really wasn't anything different between the two polls. And here we'll get to see exactly what happens here. It looks like Zalia
got look at his Fleshcraft.
And he is going to be opening that banner. So there it is. Zalia actually playing that Necrolord Discipline Priest, gets access to that Unholy Nova ability. But does mean that he also gets access to the 5% versatility and movement speed. Actually, it might be 10% versatility and movement speed from that banner for 5 minutes, which is pretty potent. It's for the whole group as well. Now he's going to grab up all of these mobs. He's playing Kyrian as well. I expect we'll see a Sigil of Silence after this Fell Devastation to help clean up all these mobs, stop them from casting quite as much. And yeah, they are going to nuke down all of these mobs, including with that Guardian.
So I think the difference in the Hunter damage from the first boss, by the way, is the difference between Frag playing that Wild Spirits Night Fae Hunter versus Ramfam's Kyrian Hunter with the Resonating Arrow.
Yeah, so even though we actually see the same 5 specs on these two teams, we have quite a few different Covenant decisions, right? Because you're absolutely right. That Night Fae Hunter, we've actually seen a pretty even split between Night Fae and Kyrian, probably even leaning towards Kyrian in this tournament so far. Mm-hmm. But Night Fae does bring bigger cleave on a longer cooldown, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely on a longer cooldown, and it's I think it's also more susceptible to being target capped.
Yes,
the Kyrian one. The Kyrian one, rather, Resonating Arrow, I think has a more susceptibility to being target capped, whereas the Wild Spirits of Force is uncapped. So now Echo has made their way to this landing area with this Elemental, with the Portal Guardian. Ooh, interestingly enough, they do 3 Maguses with the Soulbinder. The Soulbinder does a Necrotic Bolt volley cast, and the Magus does a bunch of Bone Spike casts. The Bone Spike can be very dangerous, most notably for Cloth Wearers, because it is physical damage. There is like no plate wearers in this group, but basically everything dies inside of that Silent Sigil, so nothing was really scary there. They did only get 1 Soul Storm, which is not great, but it is something to deal with. So now the rest of the group of Echo does make their way through the portal. Now is going to Shadow Meld off that Pride, as the rest of his group has already made their way through, and now they are able to omit doing that Pride altogether, making their way towards this Bone Reaver pull.
And this is not one that you see a lot on the live servers, this guy, but it makes a lot of sense when you have a comp like this and you just want some target that you can pump damage into and avoid wasting all of these cooldowns that you want to find a use for. There's not really any opportunity to do a massive MDI size 4-pack pull in a place like this because you have to go to each of these platforms that only have 2 or 3 pulls on them. So this is a great way, and you can see they're actually going to bring it with them to pull these other 2 Bone Magi in order to get even more value out of this platform. And they are going to get a huge amount of trash from this Kultharok Lich section, which will allow them to skip a lot of trash in the Zav and Gorechop wings that might not normally be skipped.
But look at on the other side of Does Gargoyle Stream in the bottom right hand corner of your screen. Okay, so while Echo did go elect to go to this Kultha Rock Lich area, Does Gargoyle Stream elected to go the Gore Chop route as their opening section. So that's a little bit different in routing. Chrono gets picked up by the Barbs coming into the Gore Chop. They did pull some of the trash into this boss. This boss is a lot of tank damage generally, but IQ does have his last resort available to him in case he does take a lot of damage.
Yeah, this was a really unfortunate overlap for Krona. Of course, you know the chains came out and he was rooted to his Rune of Power, as that ability does have that root effect, and so ended up being no way that he could dodge.
Did you notice something? You know on that grip cast, Dratnos, if you target yourself right as the grip is going to occur on you, you actually just land right at where you were standing. You don't get gripped all the way in.
Unfortunately, Ramfam has gone down for Gargoyle. They are going to try and res, but this is a difficult fight to find time to res in. Krona actually gets a genius res off during that hook, the hook's coming across the battlefield.
Actual 500 IQ res. Right
really
there.
really well played by him there.
On the side of Echo, it looks like they're on their way to Kultha Rock. They just finished off a Pride. They're going to be able to have that damage bonus for the Lich boss. This boss has received a couple of nerfs since the game has come out, making it a lot more reasonable just in terms of like the damage output. But Disc Priest was one of the best healers at this fight before because they do have access to that Master Spell for those dots that are applied to players.
Yeah, both these bosses have been difficult ones at different times. On this fortified setting, they shouldn't be too difficult or take too long. You can see Kultha Rock kind of melting here for Echo. It is, of course, going to be difficult for us to directly compare the times between these two teams for the next several minutes because they've gone about this dungeon in a different way. You know, Gargoyle has reached their second boss before Echo, although if you look at the boss's health, Gore Chop is taking a long time to die, and Kultha Rock is getting destroyed by Frag here. What is Frag doing to this thing?
They're pulling the Shackled Souls off to the side. Look at that. They're pulling the Shackled Souls off to the side up to the Kultha Rock area. They just grabbed a couple with the boss that they skipped in the beginning. So that allowed them to have just a little bit additional cleave.
Interesting. So maybe they invis potted that section
they did,
with
yes.
the Shackled Souls and then now pulled some at the end in. And then the early ones are here that they're able to pull in. And that allows them to very much fine-tune their prideful timings as well. This is a really, really clever way to do this dungeon. Almost 50% trash as well, as they're only going to be getting to 40% of the bosses killed after Kultha Rock goes down. So they're a little bit ahead on trash in terms of progression versus the number of bosses in here. Let's see which wing they decide to head to next, as Gargoyle also going to be making a similar decision. They, of course, can go to either the dual section, and it is going to be the other one, though, that they're heading to, Gore Chop's wing for Echo, with all of these nasty refuse mobs. Luckily, they're pretty low on health, so they can AoE them down really quickly with Gingy with that combustion. You can see those flame strikes already coming down. We'll be making short work, combined with actually no power infusion available for Gingy.
All right, so the teams are swapping sides of where they're going. You see Gargoyle is going to that Kultha Rock Lich area, whereas Echo now making their way to the Gore Chop area. So it seems as if Zab the Ruiner has been decided to be the last boss by both teams, so that will give us a little bit more of a description of about where these teams line up. Whenever Echo does end up down in Gore Chop and whenever Gargoyle does end up down in Kultha Rock, it'll be easy to compare like a 1-to-1 who is ahead.
Yeah, whenever, because they'll both have killed the exact same amount of bosses at that time, although we may still have a trash discrepancy between the two of them.
Sure.
I don't know how much trash they are planning to skip in the Zav wing, though. A lot of that trash is kind of finicky to skip, because it does put you in combat when those, the duelists win their duels.
Yep. Gargoyle does have a Pride now that they're dealing with on this platform, where Echo is... Invis potion? No, they just ran straight around that guy. They ran straight around that gas bag ad.
Frag pulled it to the side and presumably is going to feign it off. Yeah, so they didn't have to wait for the patrol.
So, yeah, I mean, because you can wait for the patrol for those
yeah, that's the general strategy on live servers, is just wait for the patrol, not a big deal. But here, of course, 10 seconds is a big deal, and so they are going to find a different way to do that, even if it's a little bit riskier, even if it requires you to commit something like the Feign, as they're going to be killing some mobs, and the first couple mobs they kill in the middle of this pull are actually going to spawn this Pride for them. I imagine that this is actually intended, because this means that they are kind of cleaving off this Pride while killing off these last few mobs, and they are then going to be able to take the Pride maybe into a massive pull.
check it. Gingy has Combustion available again for this Pride right here. So this makes a lot of sense because he didn't want to burn all of his offensive CDs on the opener. He probably just let Frag use his Wild Spirits at the beginning, and then Gingy has that high health target that he's able to just cleave off of with Combustion, be able to do as much damage as possible. Now the Pride has gone down. I wonder if the side of Echo are going to elect to skip all this stuff. It seems as if the answer is yes. They're probably going to meld it all off. Yep, right here. Really good Ring of Peace coming in from Miraz to make sure that all the mobs are at bay to where they're able to get a little bit more degrees of separation away. Like on the side of Gargoyle,
it's going to be
pull this Bone Reaver too, though.
Yeah, so the Bone Weaver is a common point for both of the routings of these teams. But Echo here, they're actually going to use this Pride not only to nuke Gorchop on pull, they are also going to grab that one pull that's just by the door here. So they skip that gas bag and the other little trash mobs on the bridge, but they are going to pull these ones in. And I'm curious to see if they'll try to pull even more in once these things die and kind of try and keep cleaving stuff down while killing Gorchop. Gorchop, of course, not an easy boss. It does have trash of its own and does have a lot of mechanics to handle, so perhaps unlikely to see if anything more comes in.
Echo's use of offensive CDs is actually immaculate in this run. So they used Wild Spirits to be able to get the Pride spawning. Then they used Combustion on the Pride to be able to get that down quickly. Miraz saved his CDs, and so then he pops Zwin and Weapons of Order and Storm Earth and Fire on the beginning of Gorchop to be able to start to burn him down with those two ads that they pulled into it. So really just a great management of who is popping what when, which is something that is really important for MDIs to have great consistency with your CDs and to have good CD timings to where you're not overcommitting offensive cooldowns more than you have to.
Yeah, and you really want to make sure you're also getting as many uses of your cooldowns throughout a dungeon generally.
Yes.
Although, you know, a couple of good cooldowns, a couple of perfect cooldowns can be better than just firing them off at will, and that's why you're seeing them delay their cooldowns as needed there. A little bit of a rough chain overlap there. Sock committed Gingy's Ice Block to manage it, but no worries. They're able to get it done. And actually,
that's one of those times that you would click on yourself to target yourself to make sure that you didn't get gripped in.
I see. Yeah, here's one of the times where we can actually compare these two teams pretty directly, because you can see at this point, Echo has killed all of the same bosses and more as Gargoyle, and all the same trash and more as them. So they are certainly ahead at this time. I would say they've opened up a pretty substantial lead, which is very impressive, given that nothing has really gone wrong for Gargoyle. They haven't had any wipes. They've had one random death during the Gorchop fight, and that did cost them a little bit of time, but it's not like they're having a disaster run. It's just Echo has been finding a very speedy path through this dungeon.
I would say that they're probably an order of magnitude something like 2 minutes ahead still. So something similar to what we actually saw the discrepancy in their MDI time trial timings would be. So.
Which makes sense, you know, the time trials are 2 minutes apart. The most likely time for them to be apart in the live key or in the tournament run is probably 2 minutes, of course, with a wide amount of other options that were a possibility. But we're only halfway through the dungeon, right? The 2 minute lead could expand. It could also shrink. Things could get a lot closer, particularly if something does go wrong for Echo.
Yep. So now Echo is why are they positioning like this is what I'm trying to figure out. Okay, never mind. They're spawning their Pride away so then they can meld it off.
Yes, and that Pride, actually, I think that if it's in that doorway, does that mean that they're going to pull it before they go up to Mordretha, the last boss?
So they'll have somebody who starts the RP from Mordretha. They'll leap back down.
Okay, hang on. Isn't that also where you get sent to duel, down in that area? Is it possible that they want to pull it with players who are dueling and then have it like come in during the Zav fight?
Oh, wait. That is where you have to duel.
Well, they left it in a spot where they don't have to pull it. They left
I think
it in
the door
doorway,
may be closed.
So they might be able to avoid pulling it during the duel if they wanted to. But is it a possibility that they might actually want to pull it while dueling?
So the door is closed during the duel. So they may have actually spawned it outside the door so that the Pride is not there. I would have a high suspicion that they're going to, after Zav, after the duel area, a party of 4 is going to start the Pride. One of the players without CDs, I don't know which one, will probably run up, start the Mordretha, RP, leap back down, begin to hit the Pride as well. Then they'll all, as a party of 5, hit the portal all the way up to the Mordretha final encounter of the instance, and then with their Pride buff, be able to down that boss really quickly. That seems like that's the play, but maybe they have it actually spawned in the room with them.
Check it out. You invis pop past the Pride, right? Everybody sneaks past it. and then Frag misdirects now. Every other player except for Frag goes up, and then Frag shoots the Manifestation of Pride and then feigns, and then goes up himself. And that way you can send it up and kill it while you're doing the RP, while you're waiting for the RP with all 5 of your players.
Pride doesn't snap there. It'll just sit there and evade out.
Well, that puts a real... That really rains on my parade here.
Having done this before, the Pride will evade to 20 stacks and then snap approximately a minute into the Mordretha encounter at 20 stacks.
I would go ahead and describe that as probably suboptimal.
Yes, wiping your group is not normally what you want.
Meanwhile, you can see as Echo are almost about to get to Zav here, Lust is actually going to be popped by Gargoyle on the trash bowl that is nearby here actually as well. So they're in a pretty similar part of the dungeon to Echo. It looks like they've actually U-turned, perhaps, or no, they're just doing trash in this area. Yeah, and they have popped their Lust on it, whereas Echo still have access to Lust. And yeah, so here we go.
The Pride there for a second as Azalea walked in the room. It's important to note that the Echo players definitely do not want to pull the Pride during the boss. Like I think that is like a critical way that they would probably wipe.
I don't know. Considered. I don't know. Maybe at the end of the boss, you start pulling it in, you cleave it down. It's a fortified boss. Maybe that's a way you could save some time. This is a pretty tricky boss, though. It's a boss also that adds, if you're not main targeting it, it spawns more and more banners, and those banners add a really nasty movement speed slow to your whole group. So you need to kill them.
So Frag and Gingy got elected to PvP here. It's very important to note that the person with the highest CR in Arena is the person who is allowed to win every single time. Frag showing that he is the highest Arena rating and is able to take down Gingy relatively quickly there with his aim shots and rapid fire cast. And it looked like the Pride did have the door closed on it, by the way. Just circling
so
back.
They spawned it outside the door. I mean, even if it was inside the door, they wouldn't have to pull it if they didn't want to.
Probably.
Because you do get some 40 yards in that dueling area. I know, having used the entire duel area in intense player versus player combat.
Exactly. You thought that you guys were watching the MDI, but in fact you are watching the AWC, where we also have some PvP action occasionally.
I mean, these players have all done a lot of PvP over the last couple months because it is such a great source of gear for them.
I've actually been enjoying Arena a lot lately.
Yeah, me too. I think the Arena's in a pretty good place now. It's a little bit different here, and I don't think PvP scaling actually comes into effect when you get sent down to the duel here, so things are a little bit different even. Yeah.
Ooh, Frag and Gingy again. We know that Frag has to win this one because he is the higher CR. Aim shot coming in. Gingy not even fighting back. Explosive shot. Frag then pops that rapid fire. Probably going to steady shot Gingy to death. Not wanting to spend any more charges of his aim shot.
Yeah, I think Gingy could have really done that a lot better. He turned his back and didn't cast any spells, which I think probably hurt his ability to win that duel. So if he's looking for more strategies next time, try casting something like Fireball.
Making sure that he has his offensive CDs, his combustion available. Maybe wear that Triune
legendary
as well. Yep. It is getting nerfed on Tuesday, but it is still very potent in player versus player combat.
Oh, yeah. All right, so Zav goes down. Let's see exactly what Echo is going to do with this Manifestation of Pride. It is that they're going to fight it, and it looks like maybe Frag is going ahead. Yeah, Frag is going to drop combat with that Feign Death or the Shadow Meld so that he can go and start the Mordretha RP at the end of the dungeon.
Importantly enough, it's also Frag because the hole is still open whenever you go all the way up, and like he's able to disengage himself to make sure he's not going to take fall damage whenever he's coming back down. But right there, you see he leapt back down, but he disengaged right before, so then he's able to meet back up with the Manifestation of Pride and deal with
any player in this group could do that, right? You could levitate, you could Infernal Strike, you could Transcend, or you could Slow Fall. So all 5 of these players could do the run for that purpose. But yeah, you can see this is going to get them Pride onto Mordretha, but also they're not going to have to wait as long for that RP to finish. So really well optimized pathing here. And yeah, they are now on their last boss of the dungeon with full trash count. If Echo can kill this boss, that's going to be them done for the day, winning into the upper finals even tomorrow. So that would be a great outcome for them here in our first match of day 2. Gargoyle, meanwhile, would not be out if they lose here. They will be heading down to our lower bracket, where we'll see them again later today.
Yep. Now Mordretha, it has been pushed sub 50%. They have to dodge that Clash ability and the charge. Those are probably the 2 most dangerous
Mordretha's health is just disappearing. This boss is already dead. The Bloodlust
They're still
plus
in Bloodlust.
Prideful combo. It's really everything you could ask for against a boss like this, particularly with classes that are as bursty as Echo's classes. Look at the damage here. Mira's doing 13k single target.
less than a minute spent in combat on this fight. Xaylia is actually at 4k DPS on that boss as well, really showing up on the disc freeze.